Okay, good morning, everyone. Yes, so I'm here on my own this morning, but we've got a fantastic session coming up from Elena Soboleva. She's going to be talking to us about early years literacy. She's recorded a great session for us. I'm going to see if I can live stream it playing the video so that we can still have the chat in the Facebook group. If it doesn't work, I'll just stop and upload the video directly. So Elena she's passionate about teaching early years. She's got an amazing blog that focuses on her work with pre-primary and primary aged learners. And also on the blog, there's a really great section called a knowledge database. I think it was knowledge base, where she's got links. Well, she's given some really useful terms with great references. So if anybody is ever working with, if you're ever doing an assignment or anything on early years education, do check out Elena's knowledge base. Okay, so fingers crossed, let's try and share the video.
Hello, my name is Elena, and as you know, today I'll be talking about early years literacy development. In this presentation, we'll focus on the key characteristics of literacy development in the early years. We'll talk about implications they have on course design and lesson planning. And finally, we'll look at different ways to support entry into early literacy in English. Okay, so first of all, when I say early years, I mean two age groups: pre-primary, 4, 5-year-olds, and early primary, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. Right? It's a huge topic, and of course, I cannot cover everything, so I've decided to focus on these two age groups. Okay, so let's look at the characteristics of literacy development in these age groups. First of all, we should remember that children do not pass neatly from one stage to another, but they develop along a continuum. So the age divisions and the characteristics of literacy development are based on my research and on my experience of working with young learners in Spain. So that's, for example, if we look at preschool children, we'll see that literacy is the foundation of literacy development, right? There is not much reading and writing in L1 or L2. However, when they are 4, children are invited to write their name. And as some educators highlight, they become very passionate about it because it is almost as if they are representing themselves and in fact creating a symbol of themselves. So their name becomes the first string of letters that they can read and write. And of course, they develop a very strong sense of possession about their name. And sometimes they do not understand how the same letter can appear in different names, right? Because their name is their identity. Thus, children are exploring the use of written language to establish identity. When they turn 5, they start exploring the alphabetic code. And they still blend drawing and writing. And when I say writing, of course, I mean individual words. They start labeling their drawings of family, friends, classmates, important events in their lives. So here, they are establishing relationships with others. Thus, summing up, we can say, when children are 4, they are establishing their own identity through writing their name. And when they turn 5, they are establishing relationships with others through writing, through initial writing of individual words. Okay, so let's move on and we'll look at the key characteristics of literacy development in early primary school. So when children are 6, of course, they have a limited ability to read and write in L1. So it's still difficult for them to read or write in English, which is their L2 or L3, right? In some cases. They are still developing eye-hand coordination, and they don't have much spatial awareness. So it takes them time to produce a short phrase or longer sentence. But we can say that word recognition is particularly important when they are 6, and it is considered to be a very good start to reading and writing. So we are moving from writing their own name to writing other words related to their life, family, friends, school, important events in their lives, writing short phrases, and then we are building on this knowledge, these skills, and they start writing longer sentences. So the age of 7 is known as an intellectual revolution. Although children are still developing fine motor skills and producing a sentence might take them a long time. If before, when they are 6, we said word recognition played an important role, now we can say that pronunciation plays a significant role in reading skills. Of course, it doesn't mean that pronunciation hasn't played an important role before, but now when they are 7, 8, it plays a significant role in reading skills. And as Cameron describes it, she says, written words are turned into spoken words, and any inaccuracies in pronunciation can make it difficult to match the right spoken word to the one read. So what implications these characteristics can have, all of a sudden I'm human, on course design or lesson planning? Let's look. Mainly, we should try not to push children beyond their developmental capacities. It can be very frustrating both for teachers and students. So we should be really careful and know what they can do and what they cannot do yet. It's always good to challenge a little bit our students, but without pushing them beyond their developmental capacities. And then we also very often think that children are very curious about everything, right? They have this natural curiosity. However, it happens that sometimes they are more curious about the novel, but not routine. So probably you've noticed that when it comes to revision activities, some of them step back and do not participate much, while others really want to show what they already know. So here we need to provide a careful balance of routine and new activities. And finally, young learners do not understand why they are learning a foreign language. They do not understand the importance of learning a new language. So their motivation is controlled externally by their parents, teachers, awe and activities. So we should remember what motivates them. And it means that we should be with them and observe them, to know them better, to plan better, to create better opportunities for them, right? So there are different ways to support entry into literacy in English. And it is important to remember that children are not waiting for formal schooling to use literacy. They are waiting for the opportunity to display their use of it. So, Gail Ellis and Sandy Morale highlighted that children need a lot of opportunities to develop their literacy skills. And these opportunities involve routines and games, songs and rhymes, picture book read alouds, opportunities to remember sequences of activities, role play in a story, and exposure to environmental print. So we are talking about a very rich language environment and repeated exposure, right? We're talking about creating a lot of opportunities for students to let them show what they already know, what they already can do, and also support the development of reading and writing in a very friendly and very encouraging environment. So I'm aware of the time, and I'll focus on these 4 points, okay? Routines, picture read alouds, opportunities to remember sequences of activities, and exposure to environmental print, okay? So let's look at the first block, routines. And we know that routines help build a child's sense of security and confidence, and also support language development. There are usually 4 main routines: opening, timeline, transition, and closing. So for example, when we talk about opening routine, we are talking about a lot of subroutines, right? Like, for example, saying hello, taking attendance, talking about the weather, the mood, celebrating a birthday, etc. There are a lot of opening routines, and every teacher has their own routines. Then when we talk about timeline routine, we know that it's kind of bridge between the opening routine and the more focused activities. A transition routine means that we are moving from one scheduled activity to another, right? So transition, ding, ding, ding. And finally, closing routine signals that the lesson is over and that it's been an enjoyable experience, right? So when it comes to opening routines, as I've mentioned, there are a lot of routines, right? And all of them involve oral language, some writing maybe. And what I really like to include in my opening routines is celebrating a birthday, celebrating somebody's birthday, because children are very self-centered. It's all about their name, their family, their friends, their day, and their birthday. So be ready to celebrate a child's birthday. And of course, it means that we need to have a chart with children's names and birthdays in class. What I usually do is we first do it orally, right? Question, answer, then I write everything on the chart. on the board. And then I invite the children to fill in the chart with their names and birthdays. So they've seen how I made it, and I invite them to do the same, but with my help, with my support. This is one thing. And another thing is have a birthday bucket. It can be a box. It can be a bucket. It doesn't matter. In my case, it's a birthday bucket. And it's a bucket with all of the material I would need to celebrate a birthday. So it includes a birthday story. It includes flashcards and word cards related to the story, related to celebrating somebody's birthday. And then we also have craft material to be able to make a present list, right? So a lot of pictures, and then we're labeling what we'd like to give as a present or receive as a present because it's our birthday. And the material they would need to write a birthday card. And it can be paper, but you can also use nice birthday napkins, which are very colorful, and they encourage writing. So it's something very playful for children, and they love it. So this is a part of my opening routine. And I know when it's somebody's birthday in class, I always have this birthday bucket in class and in my classroom. And I'm ready to celebrate, and I'm ready to encourage them to produce some drawing, writing, and reading aloud a story as well. Okay, so let's move on. And the second important part of our routines in class is timeline. And a timeline is a bridge between the opening routine and the more focused activities, as I mentioned before. And it can be a visual representation on the wall. So we can have small cards and some words to show what we are going to do today in class. But you can always have a post box, because children love receiving letters, and they love standing up and going somewhere and checking something and then bringing it back and show what they got. So we have the post box, and I nominate a person who goes and check what we received today for today's class. So I have this big envelope. It comes from the Land of Wonderful Stories. And mainly, I put here all the material that I need for my lesson. Stories, story cards, flashcards, word cards, any props. And then we go through this material together. Oh, why do you think we need this today? Oh, what the story is about. So I prepare my learners for the lesson. It's very visual. And we focus on initial reading, initial writing. And I say writing because next to the post box, we have some notes where children can write their letters. And as you can see, we've created this template. So it's a piece of paper and children drew themselves. So it's personalized, something that they would like to use. And they use these notes to write letters, send letters to each other and the teacher. So this way, we create environment that encourages and facilitates playful writing opportunities. Okay, so if you have then any questions or something that maybe I haven't explained very well, please post a question and I'll be very happy to answer it. Okay, anything, doubts, questions, or anything. Okay, so transition routines, right? Transition routines are about moving from one scheduled activity to another. And it's really important to do it very quickly. It's transition moment. So you want to be ready for this moment. You don't want to lose the children moving from one activity to another one. And chants and songs are really good way to move from one activity to another. Chants and songs also help to develop phonological awareness. And first we practice chants orally. And then when the children are already familiar with the chant, we make a poster, right? And it depends on the level, on the age of students. It can be copying words, sentences, or producing their own, right? So here are some examples of transition, chants, and rhymes. Okay, right. Then when it's time to finish our lesson, so we have this closing routine that signals that English is over. And we know that children are curious about the alphabetic code, as I've mentioned before. So our last activity is breaking the code. So we have this poster on the wall. The children are getting a secret code. It's a word related to something that we studied in class. Maybe it's a new lexical item. Maybe it's the most difficult word that we've had. Maybe it's the most enjoyable word, the easiest word. So it's something related to the lesson. We make it special and we break the code together. Okay, and also children like big numbers, so for them it's fun. Right. If we're talking about picture book read alouds, to be honest, I don't have much to say. So I encourage you to go to Peppel's website, and they have a lot of information about picture book read alouds. You've got great tips, examples of good read alouds, lesson plans based on picture books. You've got everything. The only thing that I would like to highlight is that it's really important to ensure that children understand the overall meaning of the story first. It's important to focus on the individual vocabulary items. And although we say that when we are reading aloud, we are encouraging children to read on their own as well, sometimes it happens that we are reading amazing books in class, but we still have students who are not very interested in reading because they find it difficult or boring. So to help them, I use this phonic phone, and it's really easy to make a phonic phone. Just Google it. But if you are not keen readers, if they are not interested in picture book read alouds or reading individual vocabulary, individual words, so just give them a phonic phone and they can read it. Sorry. Yes. When they use phonics phone, they can whisper and they will hear themselves, right? So it's fun. And it keeps their hands busy, so they become more focused, okay? Opportunities to remember sequences of activities. So if you're working with story cards, then it's really easy to put the story cards in order and remember the story, right? But if you don't have story cards, and sometimes it happens that you've got a picture book or you're working with a course book, but there are no story cards, then children can create their own mini cards and put them in order, retell the story, or you can use already ready-made nursery rhyme printable mini books that you can find here. There are 2 links for you to check. And also, if you have time, and honestly, it depends on the number of students you have in class, you can have some follow-up activities and do science experiments. These are the activities that I made with my students, and as you can see, their reaction was simply amazing. They had fun and they were really involved, and it was a great opportunity for them to remember what we've done. So it was all about first, second, third. They had to put the activity in order, right? They had to remember the sequences of these activities, right? And finally, exposure to environmental print is very, very important. Children can observe the literacy that surrounds them in everyday life, like birthday charts, the weather charts, mood charts, signs, labels, and they begin to construct their own hypothesis about the function, structure, and conventions of print. So when you start labeling the objects in your classroom, do not label everything at once. So label a couple of things. And what I suggest is you could have a cutout butterfly and move it around the labels. So this way children's attention will be drawn to where the butterfly is, and they will notice the word on the label. Because otherwise it's like, you've labeled everything, you have those beautiful labels, and nobody pays attention to them. Or they go and they remove your labels. Sometimes it also happens if you work with pre-primary or primary school children. So let them remove the butterfly. It's a big challenge for them. They love it. Find the butterfly, read the word, what this word means, right? So we make them pay attention to the words, the objects we labeled in class. And then once they know these words very well, once they get tired of them, we can say as well, then we change the labels and we label other things, right? And I think that's all. I'll stop here. So if you have any questions, you can post a comment and I'll be very happy to answer your questions. And here you have a little bit of bibliography, and if you're interested in literacy development, I would suggest starting with these books and chapters in examples, right? So that's all. Thank you very much and talk soon. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Oh, that was such a good video. I'm really grateful to Elena for recording it for us. We had hoped that she would be able to make it live, but due to her schedule, she wasn't able to, but she was really keen to do the talk because she couldn't do it in February because of other problems. So thank you very much, Elena. And just her passion and her dedication shone throughout the whole talk. It was a great combination of the theory behind these different age groups and then some fabulous practical ideas as well. So yeah, if you do have any questions, pop them in the comments. I'm going to add the links that she mentioned as well. And have a good day. We're going to be back with another webinar in a couple of weeks. Again, hopefully we've got someone else coming to talk to us about working with young learners and developing writing skills. So I'll have details of that coming next week. And then next Thursday, we'll be back again with our regular coffee breaks. So looking forward to seeing you then. And thanks for stopping by. Bye-bye.